how Dr. Pham went from a very light social presence, and I say light in a sense, like, it's not that serious, to making over $25,000 in just the first 2 weeks of us actually implementing the plan that was created for him using content. Like a case where the $25,000 and we were only on like the second week or third week or something. That was crazy.
No, it's nuts. Whatever he's doing, it's working. And trust me, you're not going to find a better price. I really appreciate what you do for Reeve. Like I said, I've worked with a lot of companies before, and man, I have to stay focused. Your company has been nothing but amazing. I really don't have any complaints, to be honest with you. They see me as a number. You see me as a person, as a client, and you want me to succeed because you know that if I succeed, then it will reflect amazingly on you. And I can already tell you, 20% increase, I can only speak for the surgeon side, but any business, I think it's going to be the same. If in 5 months you can increase your volume 20%, that is huge for the cost that Fareed charges you. That is huge. In 1 month, you will be able to pay for 6 months worth of Fareed's work. I'm telling you that right now.
So just to go over some key ingredients, content, describing people what he actually does, who is he for, all the pain points, all of that is done in content. So if somebody, for example, finds him through ads, they can go through his content and just have all the questions answered that they initially have. With Dr. Pham in particular, he also has a podcast that he does, 15 to 45 minute episodes, sometimes an hour long, where he goes into extreme detail about a subject. So for example, if he is talking about some medical procedure, and let's say this medical procedure is either rare or someone's going through it. And of course, when you have these type of issues, medical issues, you need to make sure you have enough information as possible. So even when it comes to the views and downloads itself, that is not the metric we were looking at. Now, subconsciously, you always look at these things, how many views I'm getting, how many likes I'm getting. And to a degree, that is important because you always want to make sure that your brand is growing at the same time. So we make sure we keep that element present. But the point over here is, if you compare his downloads, which was in 2 digits, compared to someone which with 4 digits, 50 digits, the level of the downloads is different because consumer base who are not going to buy and you can sell them like a low ticket offer is high. But if somebody who's watching it and has a potential of buying like a very big amount of purchase. Now, one concept people need to understand is the viewer type or the listener type, like who's watching your videos or who's even actually listening to your podcast. If it's a buyer, if it's like people who can actually buy, then even if that video is getting 100 views, if all 100 or let's say 50% of them are buyers, that 100 views is more stronger than 50,000 views on like a consumer-based video who are not going to buy or have like a low buying rate, for example. So things like these people also have to keep in mind is what kind of viewer am I attracting? That also just, you can control that by the type of video you make. So in Dr. Pham's case, if he's making a video podcast or an audio podcast on a detailed medical matter, and if someone who's going through it listens to the whole podcast, this person automatically wants Dr. Pham to be the expert on their case. Does that make sense so far? So for example, if you're going through like a rare condition, or let's say it's a very sensitive subject, and you see a person for 45 minutes, or you listen to the whole episode, even for 30 minutes, you just trust that person more rather than some random doctor down the street even. So that person automatically becomes a very, very warm lead because they now understand the subject even further. Now let's build the branch. Ads, content, podcasts. And let's also go over what happens in each stage. Ads is basically to introduce new people to Dr. Pham. Content is to nurture that audience or just to give more value to that audience because our goal here is to teach. Medical advice is like, you can't really sell on medical advice unless you run some specific ads. Our goal is to just give value. And then people who want to learn more on the subject matter can always go to his podcast. So ads, content, podcasts. And as a urologist, sensitive subject matters is definitely something you want to make sure you're sharing with like specific people in life. And if content and just podcasts, multiple podcasts can help you kind of eliminate that barrier of, okay, I don't know if this problem I have is solvable. I don't know if this medical thing I have is even approachable by any doctor. And if you find like an ad that kind of gives you that glimmer of hope, and then you follow this person, and then you realize that this is something that is solvable, and then you go listen to the podcast, then you immediately think about, the first thing you think about is, okay, I have this issue, I need to solve it immediately. How do I contact this person? It's a very simple funnel, but it just requires the right type of content. Like, what type of content are you really creating? So that is something very, very important. Even with the short form content, like we make a lot of short form content for him. So let's say each podcast gets like 3 to 5 short form content. If we need more, we make more depending on like the good reels we can find for socials, and then we'll just distribute it across every platform: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all these different platforms get those content in them, all different platforms. So we just want to make sure that we're also doing the work organically and also using ads to reach more people. So even if we're not using ads at all, we are still reaching people organically. All right, that is all for today's video. If you do want these exact systems installed for your business, there's a Calendly link below in the description. Just click on it, choose a time that works best for you, and we'll get in touch. I do also send out 5 consumable short emails every single week, Monday to Friday. The purpose of these is to just take a look, take like 15 to 30 seconds, read it, and just get value. The emotion I try to get out is like, okay, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Let me go implement this. So I'm try to make it very consumable and also just implementable, if that makes sense. Please consider subscribing. I post every single week. I try to make every video as value driven as possible. I don't know why that took me so long to think about, but yeah, and also like the video so more like-minded people like yourself can find this video and then perhaps just vibe in the comments. All right, I'll see you next week.